WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Bloomington, Indiana. Experience the holiday season by exploring unique downtown shops, experiencing local artisan markets, and enjoying one of the many seasonal performances. Plan a winter getaway and discover more holiday happenings at visitbloomington.com. WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Foster Success, helping to ensure older foster youth are safe, connected, and housed through the holiday season through their Friendsgiving campaign. More at fostersuccess.org.
We're going to take a trip right now. Like we always do about this time.
This is a journey into sound. Break it down.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. On this week's show, we'll celebrate National Native American Heritage Month with two prominent figures in contemporary Native American music. Up first, I'll speak with Daryl Black Eagle Jameson of Medicine Singers, an experimental powwow group.
My whole thing was to show people that our Indian culture is just as good as equal to the white culture that's out there.
And on the second half of this week's show, I'll share my 2015 interview with the Crow Nation hip-hop artist Supaman. His work blends Native American dance, music, and regalia with hip-hop culture.
In my mind, I was like, man, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this as my identity as a Native person. I'm going to wear my outfit and represent, Native culture. At the same time, use Native instruments, the drum. And I'm a DJ. I'm going to represent, I'm going to scratch, show my skills as a DJ.
Daryl Black Eagle Jameson is a clan chief of the Pocasset Wampanoag tribe of the Pokanoket Nation. He's also the founder and director of the Eastern Medicine Singers, an Algonquin powwow group from Providence, Rhode Island. In recent years, the Eastern Medicine Singers have gained notoriety for their collaboration with Yonatan Gat, an Israeli guitarist best known for his work with the punk rock band Monotonics. Yonatan Gat and Eastern Medicine Singers issued their first full-length collaborative project last year. That album was titled Medicine Singers, a joint release through the Indianapolis label Joyful Noise Recordings and Stone Tapes. The Medicine Singers' debut received significant attention. Pitchfork praised the album for highlighting the debt that rock music owes to Native American music, and The Fader described the album as bridging the gap between deep-rooted tradition and the avant-garde. We'll start this week's show with the first 3 tracks off the album. This is Medicine Singers with A Cry, Daybreak, and Hawk Song.
The beginning of our people and our language. Much of it has been lost, and I am now trying to compile it. My father, Chief Sachem of the Wampanoags. I, his daughter, Gathetha, now talking.
We just heard 3 tracks from Medicine Singers, a collaborative project featuring the Israeli guitarist Yonatan Gat and the Eastern Medicine Singers, a Native American powwow group based in Providence, Rhode Island. Last year, I spoke with Eastern Medicine Singers founder, Daryl Black Eagle Jameson. Though Daryl grew up attending powwows, he didn't perform the music until adulthood. Daryl told me the Eastern Medicine Singers were formed as part of an outreach effort to teach the language and culture of the Eastern Algonquin people to children. Let's join my conversation with Daryl Black Eagle Jameson. Can you tell me a little bit more about your background and, your relationship to this music, how it developed through the years?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, young kid, my father used to take me to the powwows, and one of the ones that I remember the most was the Nipmuc powwow at the Hassanamisc Reservation, Hassanamisco. And good friends of my father's were on the council over there. And we used to go there every year when I was a young man, and I heard the drums and the drums that were playing. They were playing, a lot of, traditional music at that time. And so I looked for it every year, it was always cool to me, to go see that. And then sometimes we'd go up the Mohawk Trail. They used to have powwows up there. I was lucky to be able to hear that. And then later in life, I mean, I didn't have any musical background per se at all. And then later in life is when I picked up the drumming. I actually picked the drumming up because I was teaching kids culture at a local 501c3, the Rhode Island Indian Council, on Broad Street in Providence. And the kids were dancing to Western style music. And that's when a bunch of us got together and decided we would try and play and do our own songs, do our own songs for the kids while we were doing that culture class. We started out doing a few older songs that we had heard around, and then I started doing, our own type of language songs and everything. And I was fortunate. I had, before in early 2000, my father died in 2000, and then I met a gentleman right after that. His name was Clinton Wixon. In his language, it was Nakia Hammock, which was he was Chief Lightning Foot of the Massachusetts, and he was also of the Wampanoag, Pokanoket Nation. And he was a fluent speaker of the Wampanoag language in the Massachusetts. And he took me and another gentleman under his arm, and he instructed us in, the language. And I'm not saying I'm a fluent speaker because there's just so much to learn. I could never say that I was. I could say that I can understand it, and I have a gift, that I can hear it and write it. And because I think that I heard the language spoken the real way, I understand how the words go together, where somebody just learned it from a book will never get that. You're never going to get it from a book. You have to hear it, and I heard it. I heard it when I was young, and I heard it when I got older. So I think it just resonated in me. When we had that program with the kids, I was walking down on a reservation one day towards a burial ground by the water. I was walking down there. I had like a quick premonition. Some people call it a vision. I just think I was just almost in dreaming. And I looked out and I saw, old style dancers dancing around the graveyard for a split second. And then Then it was normal after that. But after that, it was like I started getting the magic of the drum and the music and the language. Things just started snapping in my head. And I came up with the very first song, that I had wrote, and we practiced it. And we kept bringing songs, and I started to write a few songs, and then I took some old songs from one of the earlier groups, the Nipmuc Turtle Drum. They were part of that Hassanamonisco Reservation people at that time, and they had some older songs that I remembered them. So from that, I was able to do some powwowing, because I had enough songs to go and play for a couple hours and keep the kids entertained. And that's kind of how our career took off. We went to my tribal powwow that we had for the children, and one of the drums couldn't make it, so they asked us to play, and we played, and the rest was history. People loved us because we were doing the language and everything, and it just took off after that. And it was amazing. It was amazing. And we did it because we loved it. And we did it because we wanted to help the kids,
Let's pause and listen to another track from Medicine Singer's debut album. This is Sanctuary. That was Medicine Singers with Sanctuary. Medicine Singers is a collaborative project featuring the Israeli guitarist Yonatan Gat and the Eastern Medicine Singers, a Native American powwow group. They met in 2017 during a performance at the South by Southwest Music Festival in Austin, Texas. I asked Daryl to share his memories of that encounter.
When I met Yonatan, we met we were at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, and we were on a project bringing Rhode Island artists to Texas, and I'm bringing Texas artists to Rhode Island, to perform and stuff. So we were playing at the Spider House Cafe ballroom down in Austin, and we were outside playing, and I saw these two guys looking at us, and I'm like, who the heck are these guys? They kept coming up watching us, and we were playing, having a good time. People would dance, and we didn't care. And then all of a sudden, they talked to Ray and Toolbox, and Ray came over to me. He goes, "Hey, those guys, they want us to play with them, And I said, "What guys?" He goes, "Those two that were sitting there, they're musicians." I said, "Yeah." "What do they play?" He says, "Well, they play rock and roll." I says, "Well, I don't know. I mean, we've always been a traditional drum and stuff, but we've done other projects with other, different nationalities and drums and stuff." And so they came out, and they're like, "Just come in here and set up here." And we set up the drum, and we started playing for the audience, and people were screaming, crying. They loved it, When I said, "All right, we did a song. Let's go." So we walked out, and I guess what happened was people were like screaming encore for us to come back. So Yonatan came out and got me, and he goes, "They want you to play. You got to come back. You got to play the rest of the show." He goes, "This is sick. We got to do it." So I went in there and we played for the rest of the show. And it kind of that's how we started. We all shook hands and parted, and traded phone numbers and everything, and said, "Let's stay in touch." And we did. We we got to get together for a little bit of an East Coast tour, and we played in DC and Philly, and that went well. And then we decided, you know what, we're gonna put something else together. So we did. We played some pretty cool shows around and stuff, and then we started traveling. It's just getting bigger and bigger. So it was kind of, you know, okay, well, we're bringing our music and our language all over the world, and we're doing it with a guy who we like, who's a cool guy, and he's got a vision of music, and, you know, it just turned into something bigger than I ever thought it would be.
During those first interactions with Jonathan, did you see any sort of parallels or see any sort of connection between the types of music you were making and he was making, where they kind of locked together? Or were you just kind of trying to figure that all out, or just going with the vibe of what he was doing?
At first, I mean, we kind of went with the vibe. You know, we had been used to doing that at other collaborations. And then, you know, I think after we did it a few times, we started clicking, and we then started feeling each other out.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. On this week's show, we're listening back to my 2022 interview with Daryl Black Eagle Jameson, a clan chief of the Pocasset Wampanoag tribe of the Pokanoket Nation, and a co-founder of Medicine Singers. Medicine Singers' full-length debut album was issued last year in partnership with the Indianapolis label Joyful Noise Recordings. The Medicine Singers' debut album received widespread acclaim. Pitchfork praised the album for highlighting the debt that rock music owes to Native American music. And the connection between Native American music and rock and roll is best heard on the track Sunrise, Rumble, a radical reinvention of guitarist Link Wray's 1958 rock and roll classic Rumble. Link Wray was of Native American heritage and identified as Shawnee. We'll hear that track next. But first, I asked Daryl to share his thoughts on the connection between Native American music and rock and roll.
There was a documentary about, you know, Indians and rock and roll and Rumble and everything. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you look at it and it's like, yeah, there's a lot of similarities and stuff. And, you know, we go wild sometimes on the stage with the drums, and the intensity when you're playing like that goes really, really high. And it's like, it matches the power of the, you know, the rock and roll sound with the guitar and everything. And I mean, there are times when you're just like, you're playing and you're on another planet, you know, with all of this going on at the same time.
This is Medicine Singers with Sunrise, Rumble. We just heard Medicine Singers performing Sunrise, Rumble. On this week's show, we're listening back to my 2022 conversation with Medicine Singers co-founder Daryl Black Eagle Jameson. Medicine Singers' debut album featured a variety of guest collaborators, including experimental musicians like Laraji and Jamie Branch, and Native American voices, including Joe Rainey Sr. from the Red Lake Band of Chippewa, and Jan Wapishana of the Wapishana tribe in northeast Brazil. I asked Daryl if he was concerned that purists or traditionalists would critique the album's radical mix of cultural influences.
Yeah, hey, there'll be some out there that want to take shots and everything, but am I going to listen to them? No.
How do you feel about putting this record out? I mean, it seems like you're very proud of the work you've done. Are you excited for the release of this album and for people to experience this unique sound you all have created?
Yeah, I am. I'm proud of it. I sat back and listened to it again on SoundCloud last night, and I'm like, this is really a cool album. And the thing is that we have a Western styled guy in there from the Plains that did music, and his contribution was just as great as us, as about the song that he did and everything. And I don't think that people are going to be criticizing it as much as one would think, because you got different nations in there doing stuff. We have a brother on my drum that he lived on Pine Ridge. He speaks both Wampanoag and he speaks, Lakota.
Yeah.
And he's also in there, so this album's really a flash of different culture,
Yeah, Jonathan told me there's a South American indigenous vocalist as well from northern Brazil.
Yeah, and he does an excellent job. And that's why we said it's medicine. It's a medicine singers, because it really is. It's like all these, where else can you get out to different natives coming together and singing on an album? I mean, it's just unheard of. It's either the style or the other, but now you got, east, south, southeast, the deep southeast, and you got, west, and we're all singing together and stuff and doing something together. So, I mean, it's really, I don't think it's going to take as much criticism as people think it is. There's a lot of native rappers out there people don't like. There's a lot of, I know some guys out there that are friends of mine that do native rap in Canada and right here in Rhode Island, and people give them, some people criticize them, but they're still famous. They're still doing good. They're selling records, So, I mean, and, they got their own style.
That desire to criticize like Native American rappers and projects like this, what do you think that says about how people in North America perceive Native American indigenous people?
That's why we need to do this project.
Yeah.
That's because people need to see that everything's not black and white, Every Indian doesn't look the same. I'm not going to look the same as a Lakota, and an Indian from Manitoba is not going to look the same as me, as well as a Inuit. It's not going to look the same, and they all have different styles of singing. Look, they have throat singing. I don't know anything about throat singing, but that's their tradition and their style. Who am I to criticize it? And who is somebody who doesn't even know my language to criticize what I'm doing? And it's kind of the way I look at it. I mean, and that's why people like us need to come out and show the world that, first of all, my whole thing was to show people that our Indian culture is just as good as equal to the regular mainstream, white culture that's out there. The two can exist together. They can work together, and they can blend together. Lots of other people do it. You see it all the time. I've seen people that are orchestra players, and they got, different types of dancers out there, or they might have somebody who's a folk singer come in and do a piece with them. So it's no different for us. It's experimental art. That's what it is. That's what we want to do. We're going to show the world experimental art from the East and Algonquin side of the world, and hope they like it.
We've been listening to my 2022 conversation with Daryl Black Eagle Jameson of Medicine Singers. Their debut album was released by the Indianapolis label Joyful Noise Recordings. Cultural Manifesto will return after this short break.
WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Foster Success, helping to ensure older foster youth are safe, connected, and housed through the holiday season through their Friendsgiving campaign. More at fostersuccess.org.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to a special Native American Heritage Month edition of Cultural Manifesto. Up next, we'll listen to my 2015 conversation with the Crow Nation hip-hop artist Supaman. His work blends Native American dance, music, and regalia with hip-hop culture. Supaman's music has attracted significant attention. He's received multiple Native American Music Awards, marched in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and in 2017, he won an MTV Video Music Award for Best Video with a Social Message for his protest song, Stand Up, Standing Rock. I spoke with Supaman in 2015. Let's join our conversation.
What's up,
Yes.
Supaman?
How you doing? Good to be here.
Good. Thank you so much for coming through. As I mentioned, you grew up in Montana on the Crow Nation reservation. Could you paint us a picture of what life was like there as a kid?
Living in Crow, a lot of culture, Native American culture, of course, Crow culture. We have a different, traveling, you'll see like different reservations. There are some who are like losing the language and, different areas like that. And Crows, Upsalagat people are one of the top ones who have a preserved language. And so even though it needs to be preserved more, so there's a lot of language, a lot of culture growing up there, reservation. At the same time, there's a lot of hardship at the same time, from what was done, to the people, and the traumatic experiences that the people have gone through. So we've been, we're learning and growing as a people to go beyond that, healing. There's a lot of healing taking place. And so I was around that, alcoholic parents myself, ended up in foster care, things of that sort. And until I was about 10 years old, like being in alcoholism, parents-wise, and my father passed away from alcoholism when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
So then after that, shortly, my mom, she quit drinking and everything and lived a good life and was able to go through high school and everything. And yeah, it was good. There's a lot of good, more good than bad, I'd say. Yeah,
Good.
To where I come from.
And musically, what were you hearing as a kid growing up? Obviously, you're a hip-hop MC now. I assume you were tuned into hip-hop as a kid. What were you hearing growing up?
Yeah, a lot of old school stuff, Run DMC.
Should call me sire to burn my kingdom. You must choose fire. I won't stop rocking till I retire. Now we rock dog parties and come correct. All cuts are on time.
Run DMC, LL Cool J, on into the NWAs and the gangster era there. So I was influenced by a lot of hip hop. I was a b-boy,
Yeah.
I started hip hop. I was a b-boy. We break dance. We call ourselves Crow Breakers. Yeah, Crow Breakers. We had a little crew. We dance and stuff and battle each other and stuff like that. And I just was in tune with hip hop. I love the sound, the scratching sounds of DJing and stuff. I really liked that, and I wanted to be a DJ, so I was a b-boy, and then I was a DJ later on, and becoming vocal with hip hop, being an MC was like almost like you can't do that. Like you don't have the right, because you're not black or you're not from the city. It was almost like we didn't have the right to be vocal as artists. And until later on, we saw like different races and different people would express themselves through being an MC, in hip hop. And there were some Native Americans who were, they started rapping. There was one in particular, goes by the name of Lightfoot. He was like one of the first Native American rappers that was out there.
I woke up in a puddle of sweat, tripping off the things the crazy horse said. For instance, I feel the spirit's persistence, then I question my very existence. Is there an ultimate plan to my demand? A crutch for my nation so my people can stand? Do I have the words to educate the youth of my fabricated hero, the burden of proof? And then a powerful thought came to me. The spirit of crazy horse ran through me. I spoke this word, the vision was unblurred. Powerful people pointed their fingers absurd. I'm cured, healed to the fullest. Fight with your mind, resist, and we can do this. No drugs, no gangs under arrest. I have my vision, I begin my quest.
and he was doing it, and he was rapping, and I would listen to people on the radio, and I'd be like, I think I can make just as good as the music, as these ones on the radio. And so we started writing. Yeah.
In your performance and in some of your recorded works, you incorporate traditional culture into the performance and music. Was that something you were interested in as a kid? Were you interested in the traditional music and dance of the Crow people?
Yeah, that was just like normal life. Like the Crow culture was just normal life, growing up on the reservation. And so I was a dancer when I was fourth grader. I danced traditional Crow. They call it hot dancing, dance Crow style, the men's dance. And then later on, I became a fancy dancer, which I do now, which you probably saw if you saw the videos. That is the regalia of the men's fancy dance style. And always kept them separate, though, when it came to hip-hop and culture. And the culture part, the dancing, that was just normal life. And then hip-hop was like a new culture for me. But to put them together was almost taboo, like, nah, you can't really do that, like it's not going to be accepted like early on. Nowadays, it's more, it's more of a, especially as a human, you kind of grow, who you are, your maturity, your spirituality, as and you know what your purpose is on this earth, and being positive myself as an MC, I'm more like I can put those together because it's for a good cause. Yeah.
Do you remember at what point that idea sort of came to you that it might make sense to merge these two different traditions together? Do you remember if there was a particular point where that idea hit you, or you started thinking about the possibilities of combining the Crow culture and hip-hop?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was actually by accident. We got invited over to MSU Bozeman to perform for Native American Heritage Day, and they wanted us to do exhibition dancing. Me and my nephew, he's a northern traditional dancer, and he said, "Can you guys come and dance, for the people during this day? And there's going to be a lot of youth there, and you guys do rap music too, right?" And we're like, "Yeah, we do." They said, "Can you rap for them too?" We're like, "Sure, yeah, we can." So we went up there and we danced, we danced traditional style and native style. And then afterwards, we're like going off stage, and we're gonna go change into our regular clothes, civilian clothes, hip hop clothes, or whatever, and then come back and rap. And they're like, "Hey, where are you guys going?" We're like, "Well, we're gonna go change." They're like, "What? There's no time. We need you to go on. There's nobody to fill this time. You're the only ones. So we need you to go on right now." They're all waiting. And so we're like, "All right," It's like, okay. So we rapped, in our outfits, in our regalia. And it was cool, like the people liked it, it was like, it became special at that moment. And then the elders that were there, they came up to us and just shook our hands, they say, "Hey, that's good what you just did. You guys represent, us, who we are as a Psaluga, in dancing wise, and you guys have a good message, with your music. And these kids really liked it. That's good." And they said, "Keep it up. Keep doing that. It's good." So right there, we kind of got the green light, and the okay, like from the elders. And it was a good thing, and it was a powerful thing. So we kind of kept that going. Every once in a while, we display that. We kind of did it in that order, though, is we dance, and represent culture, present that to them, and say, hey, we walk in two worlds, as natives and as, hip-hop, I guess, other cultures, and we embrace those, and then we represent with the hip-hop culture.
Yeah, it's powerful watching you perform, the amount of talent you have for the different elements of hip-hop culture alone. You're beatboxing, you're making beats on the fly, you're emceeing, and you recorded a video that went kind of viral. It's a good demonstration of your art. It's the Prayer Loop song, which I think has had over 1 million views online. Right. I think if you gave a little description of what you're doing in that video, it's kind of would just fill people in on your art form in general. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing in that video and how that came together?
Yeah, the video called the Prayer Loop song kind of came together right after I danced in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I was trying to make my way down to Denver and audition for America's Got Talent, and just for some promo, and give it a shot. And in my mind, I was like, I didn't know what to do, whether to just rap or, dance my fancy dance or put them together, how I was going to make that happen. And I always watched loopers online, like Reggie Watts and dub effects. And I was like, man, I'd like to have one of those, and I think I could do that, because I'm good with bars and timing and stuff as a DJ. And so I bought a looper, the pedal, and I only had it for a week, though. I only had it for a week, and and in my mind, I was like, man, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this as my identity as a Native person. I'm going to wear my outfit and represent, Native culture. At the same time, use Native instruments, the drum, the flute, and I'm a DJ. I'm going to represent, I'm going to scratch, show my skills as a DJ, turntablist, and then beatbox, of course, and rap, and then fancy dance to my own song. So I had that idea in my mind for some time, and it just kind of came out. I went to the audition, and I auditioned, but like I said, only had the looper for a little bit, so I wasn't good at it. My audition was a flop, it was whack, and didn't make it to the next round or anything. And so I went back home, and the paper, the Billings Gazette, they said, hey, we heard about your trip, to America's Got Talent. We'd like to write a little write-up on you, and put it on our online version. And our online version, we put videos out, too. So if you have a song that you want to do, to a video to, we can do that. And so I was like, I want to try to do what I was, trying to do at America's Got Talent with the looping and all of that. And so we did that. We made the video, where I'm looping the drum, the flute, doing turntable, beatboxing, rapping, and fancy dancing all in one shot. And the video got a lot of love. It was pretty much one of a kind. A lot of people are like, I've never seen that before. Even to this day, people are blown away by it. They'll watch the video and they'll be like, I've never seen, anything like that. That's totally unique, and that's what's really special about it. It's like people see that and they're touched by it. And of course, the verse in it is a prayer. It's prayer, it's spirituality, which is really powerful. Amongst Native people, among any people, human beings, and so they're touched by that. Also, the power that comes with that. And after that, it was history. People started sharing it. Michelle Rodriguez from the Fast and Furious, she shared it on her site. One of the Doors, the band members from the Doors, he shared it. Snoop Doggy Dogg, heck, if you ever heard of Snoop Doggy Dogg, he shared it. And all these people, shared it. Team Backpack, yeah. Some great websites and everything were showing a lot of love to that video. And it really helped me, gave me the platform, that I really was looking for.
Pray for the ones listening right now, struggling, feel like giving it right now. I pray for you, pray that you come back home. I pray that you understand that
at least once a month somebody sends me that video and says, you got to check this out. Were you surprised at how crazy it went after you released it? Yeah.
I was, because I really knew it was special. I knew it was unique and everything, but the way it took off and way like the world embraced it I was blown away by it, because like I think it got to like 5,000 views like within like one day or something like that, and I was blown away by that. I was like, wow, 5,000 views in one day, yeah, right on, man. And then the next day it was like 10,000, and the next boom 20, and then all is going up and up, and it hasn't quit. And I was just like, this is amazing, this is awesome. Really humbled by the response.
Yeah, I did want to ask a little bit about the lyrical content of your music as well. You talked about some of the issues facing people growing up on the reservation, living on the reservation. Are you addressing those sort of issues in your lyrics? What sort of things are you talking about in your lyrics?
Yeah, definitely try to, address the hardships and the obstacles that we have, as Native people, as our, not just Native people either, just like everybody, we all go through everywhere you go. Like a lot of people always, when I tell them, hey, I'm Native American or where I'm from, they go right into the negativity, right away. They'll be like, oh yeah, there's a lot of alcoholics, and how's the suicide rate? It always goes back to that negativity. But in all reality, it's everywhere. Like negativity is everywhere, no matter what race you are, no matter where you live, what city or anything like that, community. There's going to be those things like that, those obstacles. And so I try to focus on the positive. Like I even heard in a study, one of the studies said that Native Americans were the highest, had the highest percentage per capita of drug and alcohol free people, which was like, you don't hear that, you never hear that, like pertaining to the per capita of the people. So I always try to let that statistic be known, when it comes to that. But I address those issues, suicide, alcoholism, things that I've experienced. My dad committed suicide when I was young, and anything that I have gone through, I try to address those because I know the pain where that comes from. And everybody needs help. Everybody needs help, needs encouragement, needs some light shed on that darkness.
And you do incorporate, am I correct, some Crow language into like some of the hooks and bars. Is that right? Have I heard that?
Yeah, some Crow style, some native singing. To that. Yeah. A lot of people ask me, hey, what are you saying? Or can you translate that? And some of the ones are just melody. That's just a melody. It's not really a language or speaking words. It'll just be a native style of melody of singing.
And before we wrap up, Ashley Holland at the Idle Museum, after your performance, told me to ask you about your Crow name. She said that you had a name I should ask about. Yeah, do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, my Apsalogan name is Age Machala, which means, good fortune on Mother Earth. And my grandpa, he gave that to me. You usually get your name from your clan, your clan uncles or whatever, but my grandpa, he gave me my name. And he was the president of the Native American Church, if you know anything about peyote. And during that, it's a spirituality practice of a lot of Native people. And he was a great man. He went to the Supreme Court, fought the Supreme Court and won, Indigenous Native religious freedom rights that natives in North America can practice these ways, and it's not illegal. It's part of the Religious Freedom Act or whatever. So he kind of paved the way. So he's the one who gave me that name, and I try to live up to that. As a Apsalogan, we try to live up to our names, that we're given, whatever we do in life. So that's my Apsalogan name.
That's amazing, yeah. Supaman, how can people keep up with you or check out your work online?
You can check me out on Facebook, which is /Supaman Hip Hop, and the Supaman is SUPAMAN, and also on Twitter /Supaman Hip Hop. Also, Instagram is Billy Ills, BILLYILLS, and what else is there? Snapchat, same thing, BILLY -ILLS. So you can Google me, and the websites usually come up right there. Stay in touch.
Yes, Supaman, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure to meet you and experience your art last night. Appreciate you coming to the station, and thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's one life to live, so live it the best you can. It's one life to live, so live it the best you can.
That's all the time we have for this week. Thanks to my guests, Supaman and Daryl Black Eagle Jameson. Check out the Cultural Manifesto podcast at WFYI.org or wherever you listen to podcasts. Cultural Manifesto is hosted and produced by me, Kyle Long. Thank you for listening.
WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Bloomington, Indiana. Experience the holiday season by exploring unique downtown shops, experiencing local artisan markets, and enjoying one of the many seasonal performances. Plan a winter getaway and discover more holiday happenings at visitbloomington.com.